So you love WandaVision, but you don't know where to go from here. The next part to go is reading the comic books. So that's very intimidating. You don't know where to go, where to start. This is my MCU required reading. Look, reading comic books is very, very intimidating and overwhelming when you first start out, but you all need to resist the urge to watch a explain video or read a Wikipedia page that summarizes everything because these comic books are too good to read a summary or watch someone explain what happens in a 300-page comic book, or comic books I should say. It's going to be impossible. It will never do it justice. And I think that these comic books are too good to pass up on. So first up, we have Tom King's Vision series. And on the surface, I think it's pretty easy to see why this series was probably the main inspiration for the actual show of WandaVision. Obviously, this is about a suburban family. This is about Vision's family. But Wanda is not the supporting character in this series. It's about Vision and what he does with his new android family that he creates. Now, this story is not action-packed. This series is something that is all mostly psychological and putting characterization first above action. Now, there is action in this series, but it's few and far between, and I just love the themes that are played out in this series. And obviously, WandaVision is heavily, heavily influenced by this Vision series, and I think it's an amazing series. I love it. This is one of my favorite Marvel comic series of all time. This series is a masterpiece, to be quite honest. It takes you on a journey with Vision's continuity throughout the years and his connections with all the different Marvel characters in the Avengers and in the 616 universe. I can't recommend this series enough, and I consider it a must-read for any Marvel fan. Just keep in mind that this isn't an action-packed story. And the second story I'm recommending today is by the much-loved, and I'm totally kidding when I say that, writer Brian Michael Bendis. I think that a lot of the things that were in WandaVision were heavily, heavily influenced more in this series, Avengers issues 500 to 503, and also the Avengers finale comic that was written in conjunction with this, or after all these issues came out. It really reflects on her power level and how she can't control the power she has, and I think that's very evident throughout this series of WandaVision, and you get an insight to what makes her tick. I think that this series does a better job of showcasing what Wanda really is in this reality, more so than a lot of people out there who will recommend you House of M or something like that. I never really cared for House of M personally. That's just my opinion. But I think Avengers Disassembled does a great job of, I think, giving the reader, especially if you're a new reader into the Marvel universe and the 616 property universe. I think Avengers Disassembled is a little heavy in continuity, but it also gives you an idea of what's going on in the universe, really, from the past, present, and what will be coming up, because the story is almost 20 years old now. I have no idea the exact years, but man, it's crazy how long time flies, let me tell you. But I digress. Avengers Disassembled isn't the work of art, quote unquote, that the Vision series is. I think this is a great action-packed comic book, and I think it has tons of emotion. I think the story is vastly underrated regarding the Marvel comic books. You don't get to see, I think, a lot of the heroes come together and see what happens when someone who means to do well, like Wanda, has the power to reshape everything, and how that can really cause someone to go unhinged. And we get to see that in WandaVision. But again, WandaVision knew where to go and where to take it because of the comic books that came before it, like Avengers Disassembled or the John Byrne Scarlet Witch series and West Coast Avengers. Comic books still inform Kevin Feige, the producers, and the writers of where to go, and frankly, where not to go sometimes in the MCU proper. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, again, I brought up John Byrne and his Avengers West Coast run, where she kind of went a little bit crazy. But Avengers Disassembled is where I think the core of WandaVision kind of lays in when you put the Tom King Vision series on top of it. They literally, to me, again, in my opinion, took those two ideas and mashed them together, and you get WandaVision. Now, obviously, the sitcom idea is all inspired by the writers from the writing room of the Marvel Cinematic Universe proper, and I give them all the credit for that, and I love that whole bit. So WandaVision is essentially a great amalgam of the MCU writers and Kevin Feige and the people in charge of creative of the cinematic universe, combining multiple aspects from the comic books into one fantastic TV series. And let's be real here, it was groundbreaking for Disney Plus, and I am so thankful that they were able to tell a story that's as unique as WandaVision and staying true to what the comic books laid before it. It truly is great, and I love WandaVision. I think it's phenomenal, and I think it is definitely worthy companion to these comic books that I love and grew up reading, and these characters that I grew up believing. So thank you so much for watching this video. Trust me, we really, really appreciate it. And please like the video, because I really want to get into that sweet, sweet, sweet YouTube algorithm. And please follow the Comic Binge on Twitter at Binge Comic. Tweet at us. We'll talk to you about comic books. And again, thank you for watching the video, and we'll see you next time.